We're inside again, Irene.
Yeah, it's really windy out there right now. It's got another alert that they're really concerned about the forest fires. I hear there's another one in southern Arizona. I haven't had a chance to check out to see where or anything yet. I assume it's a grass fire, but
We'll find out.
we'll find out eventually.
Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
As Irene said, we're inside because the wind's howling outside, and
Yeah.
the forecast wasn't for this much wind this fast, but we caught another 3 days this week where it's going to be windy like this.
Right.
So that means there's things we can't do safely outside.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do, Irene?
I went and harvested a bunch of asparagus. Last night, this one was up and this one was up, and they were up about that big, which is, I try not to harvest that short. And this morning, everybody had, elongated greatly. So I said I had to get out there and harvest because, yeah, it's not like we're short on vegetables, but I have an entire refrigerator full of broccoli right now. It's ridiculous.
I think we'll have broccoli and some asparagus for dinner tonight.
Looks like it.
Well, that's one good thing that got done today. There's other things that have happened. But we've been working on the wooden solar mount now for a while, and that's come to a screeching halt right now.
Mm-hmm. Again, because of the wind, it's not safe to be working out there trying to move solar panels and stuff like that when it's just crazy windy. It's just not.
And we have 25 solar panels in the back of our box truck. We've had them for several months. The timber that I'm using is dry enough now to use for this kind of construction. Normally, if I was doing timber frame, I'd just be putting it together while it was green, because that's what you really want to do.
Right, yeah, because that way it'll just sort of dry together, is the best way to put it, and it'll shrink and control. If one piece will control the next piece, so it all just sort of locks together.
Now, we had a few questions about what we're doing on the solar mount and why we're doing it. The first one is the Tasmanian devil has left the room.
Really, Jack is now sitting here going, "You locked me in." Anyway, that's
So
okay.
We've had a few questions about why we're doing what we're doing and how we're doing it. One of them was, why do we have 2x4s on two sides of each of those large pieces of timber that I've been hassling with now for a while to make the frame? And the answer is pretty simple. I bought 8-foot long 4x4. This is rough cut lumber. It's great lumber. It's not 16 feet long, which is what we would really need to do this frame with solid pieces of wood. So what we did was to butt two pieces of the 4x4 together, and then we screwed 2x4s on the two sides using structural screws. There's a big difference between your ordinary go to the big box store and pick up screws and getting architectural screws or structural screws.
The big problem I see when you use the El Cheapo Chinese screws that are not designed for construction, they have no shear strength. That means that when you get a force that pushes this way with that screw in the middle, it'll just break the screw.
And we've had screws that we've bought over the years from a variety of places. A lot of the screws are made overseas. I'm not going to say China or one place or another, but a lot of them are made overseas, and sometimes their equipment for cutting the threads is not adjusted quite right, and there'll be a little bit of a cut deeper than it's supposed to be, and that is a stress point fracture waiting to happen.
Now, if we were going to be doing this permanently, we would use post and beam techniques, which means we would have taken, instead of butting the two pieces of wood together like this and scabbing on 2x4s, we would have done a joint like that, where you cut away part of one piece of wood and part of the other, and you lap them, and then you peg them in some way.
Yeah, the truth of this mount is really quite simple.
It's temporary.
It is temporary. It's wood. It's low profile so that there's not going to be enough uplift from the wind. And the panels face south, which means that the wind that does come most of the time will be trying to press those panels down and hold the thing to the ground.
Right. We're still going to strap it down, though. There's no doubt about that. But
you know, why take the risk?
yeah, I see people do silly things like that around here all the time. It usually lasts about one windstorm.
There's another question that I was asked, which was, this is raw wood that's in contact with the ground. Isn't that going to get eaten up by termites and other kinds of bugs? Yes, if we leave it that way.
Yeah, and we're not going to leave it that way. This is, as we said, a temporary arrangement. And unless you use treated lumber, it is going to get eaten.
And even treated lumber may not survive here all that long.
Yeah.
So our longer term plan involves concrete and hold downs that will hold these posts to the concrete, and then an outer skin to hold everything together. So we'll end up with a storage shed plus the solar panels on top.
Right, but that takes more time. We have to do permits for that and all that other kind of stuff. And we are going to, because we're not going to play that dumb game.
No, everything that we've done on our property has been permitted at the time that the permits were required or not required.
Right.
So
we followed whatever the rules were at the time.
Yeah, so I'm not concerned about that, but I do want to make sure that we have this structure permitted by the county. There's no inspections required because it's less than 400 square feet. But we do need a permit to actually put it on our property. Now, there will be concrete involved. Do I need a permit for the concrete? I could make it that I don't need a permit, but that's just going to be part of our regular permitting process.
Right. We have to read the fine print again.
Now I can do a complete submission online. The problem is that in the old days, I could use the pencil drawings that were approved by the county for our plot map. So I'm not sure that that's still going to work, but I'm going to give that a shot. My suspicion is they're going to want finer line drawings. If they do, that's what we'll do.
I'll read the fine print, and we'll see what we think is going to make them happy fastest.
Kind of one of those things that is up in some sense to the person inspecting these applications, whether or not they think that it's okay. Now, one of the things that has happened recently, I'm told, I haven't gone online to check, I'm told that the permit fees have gone up by double.
I would expect that.
In the last week. Now, let's see, some other things have interrupted our workflow here on the solar mount and in the greenhouse and installing the Starlink system and getting the rest of the garden ready to go and a dozen other things. And along the way, I had a problem with one of my feet. I'd sprained it 27 years ago. And the funny thing is, when you start walking funny,
it's a cascade effect.
Yeah,
you have one ankle or one knee that's sore, so you walk funny. So then the other ankle or the other knee or the hip or this or that or your back, and it's a real. I remember doing therapy a million years ago for a kneecap that was too tight after a car accident, and it's just one of these things where they have to work through all the different issues. And meanwhile, in between time, it's really uncomfortable and it's problematic, and you have to be constantly reminding yourself not to do things and all that kind of stuff, which is why I wear the stupid brace.
Stepping up into the box truck to get out a solar panel, even if the wind wasn't blowing, is not high on my list to do until I'm able to move reasonably reliably.
Yeah, no, today would be a disaster. I mean, it's like if you were even just trying to take a small piece of plywood out there that's like 2x2, you'd be buffeted constantly by the wind. So anything that's bigger and heavier than that's just totally out of the question.
Yeah, these solar panels are 42 by 65 inches. So there's a fair amount of square feet of sail space. Remember,
Right. Give yourself a sail when you're carrying these things.
you know, whenever you have wind, you have some resistance for that flat stalk, and it acts like a sail, or something like a sail.
The flowers in the greenhouse are doing good. The previous seedlings in the greenhouse are doing good. The current tomatoes and stuff are not doing at all. And I am concerned. I'm not the only one who's had that result so far this year. So all of us are crossing our fingers that we're just being a little anxious. Not that it's an issue with seeds or something like that.
Well, I did happen to talk with one of the other guys that deal with the community well, and I don't know if I told you, but the new pump is in.
Awesome.
It's working.
Yay.
It's pumping water.
Good.
And if it pumps water until 10 o'clock tonight, it's pretty likely that the water station will open tomorrow morning.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, because everybody out here is having to haul all the way into town, which is an additional quite a few number of miles. What, another 8 or 10 miles?
Well, let's see, if they go to the station in town proper, it's about another 10 miles from the community water station to that station in town. And if they have to go to the big tower, that is, they're going to fill a 600-gallon tank or a 1,000-gallon tank or something like that, that's another 3 miles times 2, so they're driving 16 miles round trip, and part of that time is not fun.
Initially said, do it your way.
And that's what you're going to do.
And that's what I'm going to do. Because I'm using the tools that he has given us, which are extremely helpful, to work through design principles and work through color and work through all that. But I don't need to do it on paper very much, except for the final sketches. And I don't need to spend hundreds of hours cutting out collages and doing all this other kind of stuff to know what I want to make, because I've already done that research.
Do you know what I agree with?
I'm a troublemaker.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, but I did find all those asparagus for dinner, so.
So I'm waiting right now. Moose is working on getting some used tires that are in workable, usable shape, and we'll put those on the truck, and when that's done, I'll be hauling water.
Right, yeah, because that's one of the things, that this is a hard time of year for us, because we've had what seems like months, I know it's only weeks, but it's over a month now, of dry wind with very little rain. There's been a couple of days that were slightly damp. We had 1 or 2 days where we got, like 25 raindrops. That's about it. But the problem with that is it sucks all the moisture out of the beds, and our perennials are coming up now.
They're coming up really nicely too.
Really nice. We've got 2 out of the 3 rhubarbs are really doing super well. The third one always is a little slower, but that's fine. It's a different variety. The asparagus is doing great. The
Rebecca are coming back.
Rebecca are doing great. Hollyhocks, the iris are starting to get buds. So there's a lot of plants that need to be watered, and because this wind is out there every day, I'm having to water more than I should at this time of year. There's just no reserve in the beds. So
you know what time it is now?
yeah, it's time for me to go water the greenhouse. See, it says I should go water the greenhouse.
I heard the ding, and then I heard the chime.
Yeah, my alarms. So, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because obviously we have lots going on. I just sorted out my seeds again yesterday. I also watered my seed starting mix a little bit yesterday. I'm hoping that'll help a little. It's been just, even the stuff fresh out of the bags, it's just been a little too dry lately. And if it starts out dry, it's hard to get it to absorb the moistness. There we go. There's a chopped up word. Moistness. Yes, moisture. Then it's a hassle to try and get the stuff wet enough to make the seeds germinate.
Say goodbye, Irene.
So, until next time. Bye.
Bye. Keep brainstorming.
We are. For sure. I'm sure Issa's trying to brainstorm how she's going to get back in that door.
She wants to brainstorm about chewing on my hand again.
Well, you probably touched her.